G'day Hammerheads. So it is still spring here in Australia and I'm breaking in another mini chainsaw. So this is the DUC150 from Makita and I've just gotten this thing out of the box, just breaking it in, getting a feel for it. So I figured let's do a little bit of testing as well and let's compare it to the big blue beast that we saw in the last video. Okay, so let's take a look at these two things. Well, the Makita, first up, it has no speed control, so it's only on. Whereas the Bosch has nice variable speed control. 150mm bar on that one, 200mm bar on that one. On the Bosch, the chain tensioner is just this little winder up here, which is pretty handy. You don't need to get tools. And on the Makita, the chain tensioner is actually a spring on the inside here. So I have used these a little bit, and let me just show you there. So it's just this spring-loaded pin. So you theoretically don't need tools. You just put it in there, and then it clicks into place. So theoretically, you don't actually need to have any tools with you to do that. The retail price of both of these is pretty similar here in Australia, about $4.50, but the Makita, it doesn't feel as tough or durable, just, you know, to hold in your hand. The Bosch is a lot bigger, more rubberized, more solid feeling, thicker plastic. The Makita feels a little bit more like a sort of home and garden kind of tool rather than a professional kind of tool. But we'll see a bit of performance in a second. Now, the impressive thing with the Bosch is it actually has kickback control. So check this out. Theoretically, this thing will stop if it's actually kicking back on you. So that is really cool. Hope to never actually need to find out how well that works. Okay, so this is a fairly standard kind of pruning task that these things are designed for. About 60mm of hardwood. This is dry, but you know, it's still come off a tree pretty recently. So river red gum, good Aussie hardwood. Let's see how they go. Little stall there. Very nice. Okay, so this is a fairly standard pruning task that these are designed for. Yeah, vibration gets it. So if it's vibrating, obviously it did cut a little slower, but you know, she handled that fine. All right, so here is our test stump. I'm just going to give it a run on the Makita. And this is, well, should be able to cover it pretty easily, I think. So let's give it a shot. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. So I didn't double up the cutting very much at all. So that was all right. Feels like the chips are a little harder for this to clear because the gullet is not that big. But you know, she handled it fine. She does cut really fast. It's nice and efficient. The blade, I don't know about this blade tensioner. Let's just take a look at that. I guess if you're doing a really high resistance cut like that, it can actually press the bar down and loosen it. So I'm not in love with that, but it isn't necessarily designed for that either. So yeah, I think for really high resistance cuts like that, this thing is not designed for that. And the little auto tensioner on the chain isn't really gonna stand up to too much pressing down on bar, although when that's on nice and snug, it should be fine. But you know, this is marketed as a pruning saw, not as a chainsaw. I mean, obviously a chainsaw can handle anything that's, you know, 2 bar lengths in diameter, but you know, this is really not designed for high resistance, high flow cuts like that as well. Okay, and here is the Bosch. Okay, so it looks like I did double up a little bit over here, but you know, it's not too bad. So yeah, it felt really nice, handled it really good. Just noticing that the chips did build up a little bit in there, but that was cutting, you know, almost the whole way. I can see that this might be a little annoying if you're cutting sideways a lot. But yeah, she handled it super well. Check that out, nice. And of course, these little pruners are also good for other stuff, like more fibrous stuff like this yucca here. Just make sure you don't put your holding hand anywhere near the blade. I do tend to gum up a little bit more than the dry stuff. But obviously, she works fine. Okay guys, so having used these a little bit, I gotta say, obviously the Makita, not as powerful as the Bosch, even though, so the Bosch has only got this GBA, normal sort of battery on there. That is the battery that came with this one. I got Pro Cores as well, but I figured may as well use the one it came with. Stacks of power. Obviously, the longer bar helps with longer cuts, but then, you know, it needs more torque, more power to cut over a longer area, and this one definitely feels like it has it. This one, it did stall a few times. I'm using the 4 amp hour battery on there. That is the highest output battery for some reason of the normal batteries. There are some new ones that are just coming out, but they're not available here yet. So the Makita, it felt like it was cutting really nicely. It feels like the chain is very narrow, very sharp, so it doesn't need as much grunt to get through stuff. But that said, it didn't have all that much grunt. The motor does stall a little bit, so it doesn't seem like it's designed for nearly as heavy duty use as the Bosch is. And also this chain tensioner, the chain just seems a little loose. So there may be a way of increasing the spring tension on that thing, but as is, just sort of out of the box with lubrication and whatever, yeah, it feels a little loose there. It does not feel like it's designed for really heavy duty use, whereas this one does. All right, well, there you go, guys. Yeah, I gotta say, these two do not both feel like pro grade tools to me. So if you're someone who makes money with these, you know, you're an arborist or a landscaper or someone like that, and you want to see some proper head-to-head testing, let us know. Hell, let us know even if you would use something like this in a professional setting, because, you know, I think they're perfect for little jobs here and there, but honestly, I can't really tell who these are actually marketed for. They're definitely good for home gamers and occasional use, but this is Bosch Professional. Makita, you know, usually makes professional grade stuff too. Who are these actually for? If you use them in a professional setting, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, hit us up for what testing you want to see in a proper head-to-head video, and I'll prune you later.